Here we're looking at problem 1.1.19, and we're told to use the graph to determine A, the function's domain, B, the function's range, C, the x-intercepts, if any, D, the y-intercepts, and E, the missing function values indicated by the question marks below. So I'm going to work through each one of these. I'm not going to type the answers in, but I will work through each part to show you how they would be done. Our domain, so let's expand this a little bit. So our domain, right, is our x values. So we want to ask ourselves, what x values can we have in this problem? Well, I'm looking left to right, so can I plug any number in here? Yes. This graph, that arrow is going to keep going up and left forever, and the arrow to the right is going to keep going up and to the right forever. So my domain in interval notation would be negative infinity to positive infinity. We could also say that it's all real numbers. All right. But as interval notation, we'd be looking at negative infinity to positive infinity. Now, part B, they're asking for the range. My range here will have some limits. Now, if I look at the graph, it does go up forever, but there is a minimum. So if we draw a little sketch there, the graph looks something like that. Again, the minimum is this point down here. All right, it's never going to go below that point. And if we count on our graph, that's -1, -2, -3, -4. So my y values have to be greater than or equal to -4. So we want to write that as minimum and max. In interval notation, the minimum, that would be -4, and then the maximum can be the highest would be positive infinity. Part C, we're looking for x-intercepts. Intercepts are usually really easy to find if you already have the graph. Our graph, this blue curve, our parabola, crosses the x-axis at -3 and at +1. So our x-intercepts are going to be -3, 0 and +1, 0. D, they're looking for the y-intercepts. So where do we cross the y-axis? Here we only have one y-intercept. Our y-axis would be at -1, -2, -3. So we would say 0, -3. Our y-intercept would be -3. And then finally, the missing function values. So this is part E. They want to know what is f of -2 and what is f of 2. So these two terms here, this -2 and this +2, they represent your x values. All right, and they want to know when x is -2 or x is 2, what is y equal? So if x in the first one is -2, you would look at your graph, you'd go over to -2, and then you would go down until it intersected it. And you're going to intersect at the point -2, -3. So f of -2 would be equal to -3. If I go over to 2, so x being 2, cross the x-axis, go over 2 places, and go up to where it meets the graph, it's going to meet up at where that arrow is, that blue arrow. So I'm going to assume that is going to be a 5. So over 2, f of 2, and my value would be equal to 5. So plug those into where it asks you to type them. Be careful, if it does ask you for interval notation, make sure you type your answer in interval notation. So that would be these two in this case. And then the x-intercepts, y-intercepts, and then part E should be pretty straightforward.